Hi guys, welcome back. So today's video is a personal Q&A video as promised. I did ask over on Instagram as well as here if you guys had any questions. I was actually surprised at like the variety of topics. I thought there'd maybe be like 5 or 6 questions that were just repeated over and over again, but actually there was like quite a wide variety, so I will try and get through as many as I can today. I hope you guys enjoy this and let's get started. So as a little bit of background, if you missed my last video, my Instagram post, I am pregnant with baby number 2. We are actually quite far along, so we have less than 4 months to go, which is completely terrifying and alarming. I did not intend to wait this long to announce, but I was actually going to wait until the normal 12 weeks, but that was in the middle of our super crazy December Christmas tree period, and we have a Christmas tree business, and Dan actually kind of not took over, but well, I guess took over the logistics of another company. So it was even crazier than usual for him. So I was solo parenting a lot with Leo, and it was just really rough. I was still in the middle of all my first trimester symptoms. And honestly, I just didn't really have it in me to announce because we obviously told like friends and family, but it was really tough to muster up enthusiasm, even though we're so happy about the pregnancy. When you're feeling like that bad, it's just hard to kind of like put on a smile and be like, yay. So we kind of thought we'd wait until after Christmas. Dan also wanted to wait until he told his friends in person. He's old fashioned like that. And he wasn't gonna see the last of his friends until 1 or 2 weeks after Christmas. Not a big deal, but then we got really busy. It's like taxis and everything, and then Dan went to Monaco for a few days for a birthday celebration, and he brought back the flu, and it wiped us out for 3 weeks. Like, it was so incredibly brutal. We actually thought it was COVID to begin with, but then we realized through the kind of development of our symptoms that it was influenza A. We've never had the flu before, so I actually didn't realize how bad it could be. But it was like the most brutal thing. Like, everyone got it. Dan got it. He then infected me and Leo. We then infected my mum and Dan's mum. Like, it completely wiped all of us out. It did get to the point where it was so bad that I actually began coughing up blood, which is never what you want. It turns out that I'd actually burst a blood vessel because I was coughing so much. I was put on antibiotics because they were worried that it might develop into a secondary infection, especially with me being pregnant. So fortunately, it's all cleared up now, but it was like miserable. We spent January literally just like dying. It was so awful. So that is why I'm so late with this announcement. It wasn't intentional keeping it a secret. It just kind of ended up that way. But I'm very happy to be out in the open and kind of answering your questions, just being pregnant without any secrets and all that good stuff. So on to the first question. Was it planned? How long did it take you to conceive, and when did you find out? So it wasn't exactly planned. We were planning to start trying at the very end of the year. So literally at the end of December, when our busy periods were completely over and done with, that's when we were kind of gonna start trying and then properly like give it a go in the first months of this year. But I came off birth control because we were, gonna start trying, and it takes a while to regulate and all that kind of stuff. And then it just happened. Like, that's really the only explanation I have. We came back from a holiday in September, and we went to the US and Mexico. And then I think it happened in the first week or 2 that we were back. And yeah, like, we weren't expecting it, we weren't planning it. It was a complete shock and surprise. I only found out, I think I was already 5 weeks pregnant by the time I found out, and I only realized when I missed my period. And then I thought, well, it's weird, so I took a test and I literally almost fell on the floor. I was so shocked. Ran down to tell Dan. I was mainly just like terrified. He was also like, oh my goodness. He ran out to get more tests. Everything came back just very pregnant. And yeah, that's the story. So we had intended to start trying this year. Obviously there were other plans, but we're very, very happy and excited, but it was definitely a little bit of a shock, but a very nice one all the same. The next question was, any tips to conceive? Did you calculate ovulation dates, all that stuff? So no, obviously it was a surprise, as I mentioned. I would say in terms of tips to conceive though, I used a device called Mirror when I was trying with Leo, and the difference between like that experience and this experience, obviously very different. I tracked everything with Leo, like I was absolutely militant. And I'd say that Mirror, like without that device, which actually kind of, you pea on a stick basically, and it tracks all different hormones. Without that, Leo wouldn't be here, like 110%. I didn't realize I ovulate really late in my cycle, so when I was just going by the apps that you get, it was kind of averaging things out in the middle of the month as it does, and that just was completely not my fertile window. So if I hadn't have used Miro, we wouldn't have Leo's Day. I would highly recommend. It is quite expensive. I think it's £200 for the device, and then I think it's like an extra £100 for each set of wands, but obviously way cheaper than fertility treatments. And it was just amazing. So we actually conceived on our 3rd month with Leo. So obviously I don't have tips from this time, but in general, I would 100% recommend Miro. I think it's fantastic. When are you due? We are due in June. So really not that far away at all. Yeah, very, very nervous, but excited as well. Did you have morning sickness, your first pregnancy symptoms? How has the pregnancy been so far? So yes, I had morning sickness. I had awful morning sickness with Leo. I also had awful morning sickness with this one. I knew that I probably would, because chances are if you have it with one, it is quite likely you'll have it with any subsequent children. And yeah, it was awful. And I also had like all of the pregnancy symptoms. So literally like name one, I probably had it. I had all day nausea, vomiting, food aversions, extreme fatigue, breast soreness, bleeding gums. I had that, face acne, back acne. That was a new one this year. That was really, really unpleasant. What else did I have? Bloating. Oh my goodness, the bloating was so extreme. I had to literally switch into maternity bottoms at 7 or 8 weeks long because the bloating was so bad. I would start off the morning with like a flat stomach, and by the end of the day, I would literally look like this pregnant. It was wild, like completely, completely crazy. And I'm sure I'm missing other unpleasant symptoms, but I had them all. Like, it was not a good time. I think going through my first trimester with a toddler is probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do. It was just like, it was miserable, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Thankfully, much like last time, everything pretty much cleared up between 16 and 18 weeks. My energy has come back to normal for the most part. I still do get more tired than usual, but it's like night and day compared to what it was. There was a good like 2-week period where I'd literally just like spend as much time in bed as I possibly could. Leo had a lot of screen time. Like I literally just did what I had to survive, but yeah. It wasn't cute or fun, I'm not gonna lie, but I'm very happy that things seem to have stabilised since then. The next question is probably the most common one, which may be to be expected, but it is, do you know the gender and are you having a gender reveal? So we do know the gender. We're having a little girl this time, which we're so excited about. Obviously we're not gonna do a gender reveal. I don't actually think gender reveals are as much of a thing as in the UK. Like all of our friends have children at this point pretty much, and like no one's had a gender reveal. So it's something I see on Instagram a lot, but I don't actually know of anyone in person in the UK that's done it. And honestly, we just kind of, when we find out, we just tell people like, that's it. So having a girl, we're very, very excited. Leo has no concept of what that means. We keep trying to introduce like the idea to him, but it's completely going over his head. So it's gonna be a bit of a shock, but hopefully he'll be okay with it. Do you have a name yet? No. We don't. I honestly thought that girl names would be so much easier than boy names, but I have like 5 boy names I absolutely love, and we're really struggling with girl names. There are lots that I really like, but I don't know of any that like I really, really love. We have 2 which I think are probably the front runners. One's very common, one's really unusual, but we're just still completely undecided. So if you have any suggestions, please leave them for me down below, and we are still very much kind of browsing lists and all that good stuff, but yeah, I'm still a little bit stuck about the name. What is the age difference between Leo and baby number 2? So Leo will be almost exactly 2.5 when the baby's born. We were kind of more gunning for like a 3-year age gap, obviously other plans, which again we're very grateful for. So yeah, 2.5 years, almost exactly. Do you have mum guilt about introducing a sibling? Yes. So much mum guilt, and actually I thought this was going to be such like a gender specific thing that I was just like keeping to myself because Dan would think that I'm crazy, but he actually volunteered like these exact same thoughts and feelings to me the other night. He was like, do you ever think about like just feeling bad about how like Leo's life is going to change? And like 100% I do. It's mainly what I think about in terms of like introducing a new baby, how we're gonna transition Leo and make it okay for him, and what routines we can keep the same. And yeah, I think about it all the time. I feel so bad. I feel a little bit better now that he's like a bit older, because I feel like he's just gone so much more independent over the past kind of couple of months. I can't imagine doing 2 under 2. Anyone who is doing it, like, hats off to you. Like, that thought terrifies me. But yeah, he is a bit more independent now, so I'm hoping that's going to help. But it's definitely something I think about and I worry about a lot. So again, any tips for me, leave them down below. Uncharted territory, full on terrified about this. Did you do anything to prep for this pregnancy? And no, I didn't. I was going to, because I was going to use those like 3 or 4 months to, you know, get in great shape. I just come back from holiday, so I was carrying an extra couple of kilos. I was going to, you know, get on top of all my vitamins, organize the house. I was going to do all the things, and I did nothing because we got pregnant sooner than I was expecting. And so yeah, I went into it with no vitamin stores, nothing ready. Definitely not as fit as I wanted to be, definitely a bit heavier than I wanted to be. And yeah, sometimes life just happens like that, so you just gotta roll with it. But the first pregnancy with Leo, I was like, I'd spent a year working out, I had all my prenatals, I'd done my reading, like I was so on it, and it's just like wildly different. So it's gonna be interesting to see how much harder this pregnancy is towards the end because of that. I'll keep you guys updated. I guess this is an experiment in preparation, but yeah, we'll see. How did Leo take the news? I kind of touched upon this already, but he hasn't. Like, we try and talk about it all the time, but like, no idea. Yeah, like, I'm gonna keep on trying to talk to him about it. Honestly, every time I point to a baby, I'm like, baby, mummy's tummy, and he just goes like, no likey. I'm like, okay. So that's where we're at, but yeah. So TBC, I guess, because I don't think it's really sunk in. Will Leo and baby 2 share a room? No, I don't think that would work at all for Leo. He's actually a pretty good sleeper, but I don't think he would like having his space invaded. So obviously baby will sleep with us for the first 6 months, and then we're actually going to move Leo from his nursery, and we're going to convert the guest room into his kind of big boy bedroom, and then move the baby into his nursery. Thankfully, I kept everything very gender neutral, so I don't really have to redecorate. And then we're going to do like a big thing of his like big boy room and have it all themed and stuff. So I'm looking forward to that. What are you planning on doing differently this time round? Not much in terms of the delivery or anything. Feeding, honestly, I'm just gonna kind of take it how it comes. Like, I had a lot of issues with my supply. With Leo, it took me, I think, 15 weeks to get a full supply. So I have more of a plan around that. I didn't realize the importance of pumping like literally as soon as you give birth. Leo was a really inefficient feeder, so it wasn't enough to get my supply up. So now I know better, so I'm gonna kind of go in like with my pump and start immediately. But that's really the only kind of solid thing I have. I feel like everything else is just so dependent on what kind of baby you have, like how good they are at sleeping and eating, and yeah, I just think it's too difficult to actually like plan solid things. So that's the only thing I can control, so I am going to go with that, and then the rest of the elements we're just kind of going to roll with the punches, I think. How many kids are you planning on having? Just 2. I just don't enjoy being pregnant. I don't think Dan's super keen on having more. Like before Leo, I was definitely like, you know, maybe 3, and like Leo is just such a joy. Like, we love him to bits, obviously, but I think 2 is enough. Like, I just couldn't do 3, I don't think. Yeah, like, we feel like we're barely coping with 1. I don't know how I'm gonna do 2, but anyone who does 3 or more, again, like, hats off to you. I just don't think we have it in us. The next question is, how did you know you were kid ready? So I'm guessing this is more relevant for like Leo. Obviously we already have one. Honestly, we weren't. Like, you just get to the point where you kind of have to start if you're at a certain age. I was 34 when we got pregnant with Leo. Thankfully it didn't take too long, but you know, we didn't know how long it would take. So at a certain point, you just gotta be like, well, it's now or never. So we definitely did not feel ready. I mean, we were ready in the sense that, you know, we had savings, and, you know, we bought a big house where we wanted to raise kids in. You know, we had all those elements, but in terms of like emotionally, I don't think we were ready. And like, truthfully, like now having been through it all, there's just no preparing for how huge of a shift it is in your life. So you might as well just do it if you're thinking about it, you do want kids, because I just don't think that there is any actual real world preparation for the change that a child will bring. And the next question is very sweet, which is, how do you look so poor together with a toddler? And the answer is, I don't. I only look like this when I'm filming, or if I have a big meeting, or if I'm going out on a date night or something like that. The rest of the time I look like a gremlin. Like, I have sweats on, they're usually stained with something that Leo's thrown on me. Like, my hair's scraped back in a bun. I don't wear makeup on days where I'm not actually going out getting ready. I just don't, like, yeah, I just look like genuinely a gremlin. So Dan will attest to that. Just not my reality at all. What is your childcare situation with Leo? So Leo has a full-time nanny. So she started with us, I think, August, but like October properly, because we were away for all of September last year. So she's actually only been with us for, gosh, a few months actually, but it feels like forever because she's really just slotted in. She's fantastic. She used to work in a nursery or daycare before this, so this is actually her first nanny job, but she didn't really like working in a nursery, so she switched to this job instead. And she's just fantastic. She's super young and enthusiastic and energetic. Like, she's not exhausted at the end of the day when we look after Leo. And she's just wonderful. Like, his speaking and language has come along so much since she started. He absolutely loves her. Every day they go off on adventures. So she's with us Monday to Friday. Monday to Thursday is 8:30 to 5:30. Friday it's a bit later because Dan goes swimming with Leo on Friday mornings. And yeah, it's just great. He will eventually go to nursery or daycare, I think in September of this year, but that's only going to be for 2 days. She does know as well that we're obviously pregnant with baby number 2. We did tell her at the interview stage that we were planning on trying for a second, and she's very enthusiastic about it, thank goodness. But yeah, we feel super lucky to have found her. She's absolutely great, and she just made everything run like a lot more seamlessly, and yeah, we just feel so incredibly lucky. This one isn't particularly a baby one, but it was, do you and Dan still run your marketing business? How do you balance it all with YouTube? We run our business. It was never a marketing business. It's a development agency, so we kind of build apps and stuff like that. And we do still run that. Keeps us very busy. How do I balance it with YouTube? I mean, I'm not the most consistent person on YouTube. I feel like there are some people who are like stick to a calendar and schedule. I don't. There are definitely quieter periods where I can get more done and you'll see more videos, and there are definitely busier periods where I don't post as much, and that's because we're busy. So I just do the best I can, and then yeah, and I appreciate any of you who are kind of still stuck with me and followed me and still watch, because I know I'm not the most consistent person, but I just kind of have to fit it around everything else. But I do still love it, and I think it's such a fun thing to do. I feel very lucky that I do get to do it. The next question is baby bag recommendations. I'm going to be really honest here. I stopped using a baby bag, I think after month 1 or month 2, and I literally just stuck the things in my handbag. So I just kind of carried my handbags. Occasionally I would just have like a small crossbody, in which case I'd use like a tote bag. But even then, like, I didn't particularly use the baby bag that I bought, which just like, it wasn't particularly roomy and there were lots of compartments, and I just kind of like open totes. So I'd either use like a cheaper, less expensive tote, or I would myself carry a tote bag and then I just pop nappies and stuff inside. So yeah, like that's what I use. I would definitely say don't spend a ton of money on a nappy or a diaper bag if you're not sure quite how you'll use it, because I definitely ended up using mine a lot less than I thought. I think I originally went for the Stork one. I've given it away now, which is like a cute one, but yeah, I'm just not even gonna bother this time. It's just gonna be a tote bag with the baby stuff in it, and that's more than enough. I would say if you do travel a lot, then the Lululemon parent bag is fantastic. So that is one bag that we still have. We still travel with it every single time. Anytime we go anywhere, we will always use that. It does have a lot of good compartments, and that grows with you. So it's great as like a nappy or a diaper changing bag. You do have a little pouch and everything, like it's really functional, but it's also super functional in their toddler years too. So would definitely recommend that one. I think it's so great, but we don't use that on a daily basis. And last but not least, the question is must-haves for baby. So honestly, I just don't think that you need that much for a baby. If you're a first-time mum and shopping for the first time, you need less than companies will try and sell you. But if you do have the basics, like, you know, onesies and a car seat and all that good stuff, there are a few things which are more bougie, which we really did love. So the first one is the Snoo. This is the sleep bassinet, which basically kind of rocks them to sleep. I mainly got it because it has an excellent track record in helping prevent SIDS, which any mum will tell you, like, it's just a very, very big concern. So that's really what sold me, but it also really helps the baby sleep as well. And when you're sleep deprived with a newborn, like, every second of sleep is precious. Yes, it's expensive, but it absolutely worked with Leo. Like, I think it's the most genius invention. We're very excited to use it for baby number 2. I do just think it's one of those things that is 100% worth the money. The Baby Bjorn bouncer as well is also fantastic. I actually have 2 of those that I could have on different floors because we use them so much. It's just useful in terms of, you have the baby, you want to go to the toilet, you'd like to go to the toilet without holding the baby, pop them in the bouncer. Like, it's just like a really clever, neat solution. They're not too heavy, but they're very stable, and they're just really, really good. So that was definitely another favorite. The other favorite that I want to mention is the Skip Hop Activity Center. This is for when they're a little bit older. I think we started using it from about 4 months. You can't have them in there all the time because it's not good for their joint development, but for little periods of time when, again, you just want to be hands-free, that you need to get something done, these are fantastic. This was another one which, again, we love so much that we actually have 2 that we could have on different floors in the house. So that's when you know something's really good, when I actually like repurchased it twice. But yeah, it's so good. It kind of grows with them as well, so you can adapt it to their different stages, and it's just a great little toy. And then the only other thing that I would say personally is a must-have is zippered onesies. Most onesies do come with buttons, but zippered ones are 100% worth a splurge. Button ones are just really fiddly, and babies often don't like to be changed, so a zip is just so quick and easy, and they're just 100% worth the money. So we only get zippered onesies where we can. We tend to get most of ours from a brand called Mori. They're really nice, kind of soft organic cotton, but a ton of brands do them. But yeah, that is definitely something I would recommend. If you can, go for zippered onesies. They are the biggest game changer. So that wraps up this Q&A video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that I answered your question if you did ask one. If I didn't, if I missed it out, then leave it for me down below and I'll try and get back to you. As always, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next one. Bye guys.